What I'm going to talk about today is social search engine optimization and how that plays a role in social influence marketing campaigns. And so just to kind of start off, an industry like ours that changes so rapidly is one of those industries where the olden days is probably around 12 to 15 months ago. And so back then, if you were a company like Blendtec, you made this great blender. And you had a website to promote that on. So if I did a search, I found your Blendtec website, and I was able to find information about you. But what started to happen is Blendtec realized that their blender could do a lot more than just make smoothies. So what they realized is that it could actually blend anything, literally from like hockey pucks to iPhones. And they've actually done this. So they had this social influence marketing idea. They had this idea that they could do more with their brand. And they decided, let's put that out there on the web. Because at this point now, in nowadays, which will be old in about a few hours, they realized that they could actually take this information and they could put it on Wikipedia, they could put it on YouTube, they can create a fan group within Facebook. And oh, by the way, people enjoyed the videos so much that they took it upon themselves to actually submit those videos to Dig. So what you saw happening was that Blendtec now realized that, and as all companies are, is that not only is the search engine results just showing the one asset that I used to have, which was my website, but it actually started to show all the other pieces of social influence marketing that I was doing. And that's really what this talk is sort of about. It's really about leveraging those things as well as what I like to call secondary search engines. So I use search engines a lot for a lot of great pieces of information that I need to find. But I also use sites like this in a very search-oriented way. So I grew up in New York City. I read a lot of comic books growing up. I didn't date a whole lot in high school, therefore. And one of the things that I found when Dark Knight came out was I wanted to talk to other people who had the similar interests as I did. So this was not really the type of people that I could find on a search engine. So I'd go to Facebook and find people with similar interests. I'm also diabetic, and I have an insulin pump, and I was trying to change a setting, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. I searched Google, I searched the manufacturer's website, and they couldn't tell me how to do it. So I went to YouTube, and I found a video of a guy just like me who had a similar problem, and he actually just videotaped way more information than I needed, but he had the piece of information that I wanted. So I found that on YouTube, and when I look at specifically for news stories that I'm looking for, I look through the regular news search engines, but I also look at Dig to see what people are putting in there, because I find that sometimes they're finding news that I don't find through my normal channels. But the reality is that I'm using all these in a search way. So if you're not taking advantage of these sites and you're not putting things here, you're missing a huge opportunity. And so what I like to call, or sort of I guess an industry calls it at this point, social search optimization, which it's a big title and there's lots of stuff on that slide. And to really sort of boil it down, what this really is this is basically taking your social influence marketing idea and then leveraging that to get more results within the search engines. So all these sites are starting to get indexed now by the search engines, in addition to sort of the phenomenon I described of secondary search engines. And so what we're finding is that you take your information and you leverage them across the board by setting up profiles in all these different areas where it makes sense. And then what you find is as people start to search for your brand, they don't just find your one brand site and whatever else Google has decided is a good fit for that, but they find multiple sites that you have that you control the experience for. And that's really important in the world of search, is really trying to get those people to your site, but controlling it in sort of an experience way to where you control what you want them to see and how you want them to interact with your brands. So when you look at specifically around the world of organic search engine optimization and how this sort of plays a role into it, the more sites that you add to those listings, the more page you're going to have, which means the more organic traffic you're going to have. One of the little side benefits that also a lot of people don't realize is that if I've got a site that Google doesn't frequently crawl, but I've decided I have this great video and I put that video up on YouTube, Google, if done properly, will find that video, and they'll find another way into my website. So there's multiple ways to get these search engines into your site just by leveraging that social influence marketing idea that you had as a starting point. And so one of the things that I'm really big on presentations on, and I want to make sure I get across here, is I find a lot of times you do presentations and people want to walk away with, well, what can I do? How can I start something? And so the next few slides really just take us through how to start one of these programs and how to sort of think about these things. And it really starts with looking at where you are. So there are literally thousands of social sites, and there's probably another 10 that are being developed as I'm speaking right now. And so what you're going to find is this vast world of places that you don't know where to start. So the first thing I tell people about is start with your users. You've got market research, you've done it. You've got site surveys, you've done those. And if you haven't, then start doing those. But the reality is you know a lot about your user. And so you can start to figure out where do those users fit within the entire world of social sites that are out there. The next thing I tell people to do is look at your site itself and where people are going. So you've got 2 videos on your website, but they get 60% of your traffic. instead of redesigning the front page of your website, maybe it makes more sense to develop more videos because it's clearly where people are going. If you realize that 60% of your traffic is going into your video section, well, then you know that sites like YouTube and Tumblr and other video media sharing social sites are in your future for a social campaign. Then the last thing I tell people to look at, which sort of eventually goes back up to that user data piece, is you've got your market research, but don't 100% believe it. And the best example I have is from a client that makes a product that basically helps with a disease, and their feeling, based on market research, is that they target a user who's 45 plus, which is sort of makes sense when you look at their data, but when I started doing some digging into the social sites that were out there, I found a lot of people that were in my age group, I'm 35, so 35 and below, who were talking not only about the disease state, but talking specifically about their products and the product that they made. So when you look at that, you say, that's great, you've got this market research, but you can't just let that lead every decision you make. You need to look at the social sites that are out there because you just may not be capturing those people in your market research. So this is how you get started. And so what I've broken down here is sort of media sharing sites, social networking sites, and then just talking specifically a little bit more about blogs. And in terms of media sharing sites, so the first thing that you've got to look at is you've got assets that you probably control, be they videos, TV commercials, testimonials from customers. All those are at your disposal. And so what you can do with those is basically set them up in such a way so that you could now take them and not only have them live on your website, but have them live in multiple other sites. And so the piece here I'm talking about as far as optimizing and tagging and setting these things up, if you look in that top right corner, we worked with Burt's Bees to talk about they did a PSA around the fact that if bees disappear, apparently we all die within like 6 to 12 hours after that. And so this is actually true. I'm not actually joking about that. So what they wanted to do was raise awareness around that. And so they had a video put together that they wanted to just live on their website. And we talked to them about saying, well, why should it just live there? I mean, let's put it up on YouTube. Let's let it live on your website. And let's let other people share it with their friends. So what we did is we actually put it within YouTube, and we didn't just put it up there with Burt's Bees as the submitter. We actually wrote descriptions around what this video was all about. We specifically targeted keywords that were important to Burt's Bees in their campaign. And in doing that, this video not only got a lot more exposure, but people started to catch wind of it, and they started to actually submit the video to Dig, and it got, at some sort of 30 to 45-day time frame, about 20,000 views. And interestingly enough, the views were kind of split, but the person that submitted it to Dig was actually more impressed that the guy from Burt's Bees, the guy with the big beard and the funky hat, was actually a real person. He didn't realize that, and the submission within Dig is that the Burt's Bees guy is real. But again, they would have never seen that, and it would have never got the legs that it got had we just limited it just to that one asset that was their website. The other examples you're seeing is with Neutrogena, who's actually a client of ours as well. And Neutrogena makes this really good wave power cleanser. I have not used it, but this is what I'm told it's very good from people who have used it. And so what you see is there's a girl who's done some video on Expo TV, which is a product review site, and her YouTube listing actually shows up for one of the brand terms, which is great. But if you're Neutrogena, really, you want to own that experience. I mean, you've got the assets, you've got people. You could very easily, grab 50 people out there, hand them a flip camera, and say, hey, go film a product review for this, and we're going to post it. So there's nothing wrong with the fact that this woman is there. She's a brand advocate, so that's great. But it'd be much better from a brand standpoint if we could actually own that experience. So that's why optimizing those assets are so important. From a marketing benefit, the bullet points that I'm laying out there are basically, they're simple enough to kind of get your head around. You're going to generate awareness. You're going to get people to your website. They're going to have fun with your brand. From a search benefit, as you're all probably seeing in search engine results now, they're all starting to show videos. They're starting to show news. They're starting to show blog feeds, images. These are all starting to come up. So the more you optimize these assets, the better chance you have of search engines finding these things. The other piece is around social networking sites. And so the first thing I want to say very, very clearly is I believe that there are more than just 2 social networking sites, being Twitter and Facebook. But the reality is that they have a lot of numbers and they have a lot of experience right now with doing some programs for clients. So I started using these as sort of a starting point for now. But just to sort of take it in the getting started standpoint, you're looking at passionate users. You're looking at people who are kind of forced to share information because many people don't understand the privacy settings within Facebook. So if I join that fan group that talks about Oreo cookies, my 300 friends find out that I joined that. And they don't find out because they wanted to find out. They find out because their little mini feed shows them that. So now I'm announcing to the world that I love Oreo cookies, and you now have the ability to love Oreo cookies along with me. And that's important when you think about using these mechanisms, because you can try and go out and find 600 people that are actually interested in your product, or you can try and find some people within Facebook that can help spread the word at a pretty cost-effective way. So that's one place, at least, to start. From a marketing benefit, there's two sort of ways that we look at this. The first is this can drive other social media tactics that you're doing. So Flickr doesn't have real good success with getting indexed within Google. Some of the images do, but by and large, they don't really appear in the general search engines. So if you're doing some program where you want people to take pictures in front of a monument or a landmark, you could use your Facebook fan group to promote, hey, if you've got pictures, submit them here, but submit them over on Flickr. And you could drive traffic that way. Another thing that you could do, and so I know this might be weird since we're talking about digital and new media, but you could use this to promote a lot of offline tactics as well. So one of the ones that you might not be able to see is also from Neutrogena. And Neutrogena has a concert series with Vanessa Hudgens from High School Musical. And so what they're using their Facebook page to do is to promote the concert that she's doing in various locations. So again, using that social influence right there and letting that sort of get out to the rest of the world, you could force a lot of interactions with your brands and have people really come to the programs that you're creating. In terms of benefits, again, we want to try and own that page. So if somebody searches for Neutrogena, I want them to find my client's website. I want them to find their Facebook fan group. I want them to find videos. I want all these assets optimized in such a way so that we could really, really own that experience. And in terms of blogs, I'm going to talk about blogs in two different ways. And I think blogs are always the one that people say, yeah, we really want to do it. And then after 3 blog posts, you realize, wow, this is a lot of work, and I don't know that I really want to do this. And so what we find is, so I'll take it from two standpoints. The first is in terms of getting started. You know, do people really want to have that relationship with you? So see what's out there. There's enough buzz agents that are out there. There's enough ways to find people talking about your brands to figure out whether anybody wants to have a relationship with you from a blog standpoint. The examples that I cited here are just ones that I found, you know, they have an interesting sort of take. People actually like them. The one at the top is the guy from Carnival Cruises. He has a lot of people who love cruising, and so they like to actually hear his blog. So this is a way that you can actually start to speak to customers in a different way. This is also another thing that search engines will actually index. So you'll have your brand site, you'll have your blog post as well. I think a lot of clients don't realize they probably have somebody internally that may want to do this. So look internally and see what kind of brand advocates you have inside that may be interested in kind of taking this on. But they're not so hard to start. It's really just keeping them updated and maintained, which is the challenge that most clients have. The other piece is, in terms of marketing, is you get to speak to a lot of people. And I've got a better example that I'll show in a second that you probably wouldn't get a chance to speak to. And so the example, again, that I'll show around Neutrogena is really around what we found with using Surmise. Surmise is basically, it scours tweets that people leave in Twitter. That's a lot of TW words in one sentence. And so basically, it finds those words, and it tells us what people are saying and where those conversations are happening. So what we found in Surmise was this woman, Rosalind, who has a website called makeupmakesmehappy.com. It's a real website, and I have to say that every time I do this presentation. And what we found is that she loves the product. And what you can see is clips from her blog, where she writes up a really big post about the product itself. She shows you how to change the battery. She shows you how to do the refill pad on the front of the product. She's a brand advocate that we would have never found had we not been using these social tactics. So when we find her, we can now strike up a relationship with her. Because if she ranks for our brand terms, I'm OK with that because she likes our product. But when we introduce new products into the market, when we make changes, I don't know necessarily that I want Rosalind to tell me whether she likes these 100% and will never use us again if they don't. But what I want to know is, does she think it's a good idea? Does she want to talk about these? Could we help her a little bit maybe with her blog? Because she's putting images up there, but maybe she just needs a video camera and she'd be more than happy to do video as well. So these are things that you can't always find just by sitting back and having your one asset being managed all by yourself. I think you guys all get the idea of what I'm talking about here, which is really, social search optimization is really about taking that social influence marketing idea. You've come up with this great idea, you're spreading it out there through all these different social networks, but you're not thinking about how these things come into search engines. So when you do a search for a brand, you want to own that page with multiple listings, you want to drive increased traffic because you obviously want these things there, and you really want to drive interaction with users. You have a lot of these information, or you have a lot of these assets at your disposal already. So don't fear that you have to go out and create this big program. And the big thing I have on fear, which is, I'll close pretty much on this, which is don't be Scrabble. So I think everybody knows the story, but Scrabble hummed and hawed for a really long time of trying to figure out, should we put our stuff on Facebook for free? Should we try and own the experience and have people come to our website? Should we charge for it? And so what happened? Scrabulous was born. And Scrabulous stole all of their users. And so what did Scrabble have to do? They had to now come back and be the corporate bad guy and get a restraining order on Scrabulous. And Scrabulous has changed the game now so that they don't have copyright infringement, and they've stolen a bunch of Scrabble users. So if you were Scrabble and you just said, you know what, for 30 days, like I know there's millions of people on this Facebook thing. So you know what, for 30 days, let's just put it up for free and let's see what happens. They would have seen the amount of traffic that they got, that they would have been able to force quicker decisions on whether or not they should have charged for it, keep the experience on Facebook, have maybe a slimmed down version on Facebook, but maybe a higher paid version or a more integrated version on their corporate website. There's ways that they could have done that. So for those of you who are clients or marketers or are working with marketers who are not sure what to do, we know the numbers are there. We know that people are using these sites. Play with the sites. Figure out what makes sense. Do your homework according to some of the slides that I put out there, and figure out what makes sense. But don't sit back and become Scrabble, because someone will take your market share. That's my email address. As John had mentioned, I write a weekly search newsletter for our company. Feel free to read it, subscribe, don't subscribe, spam it to your friends if you don't feel like it's any good. I'm on Twitter as well, so if you want to reach out and share ideas and exchange information, more than happy to, and thank you so much for your time.